Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Professor James Small says some very interesting and disingenuous things about foundational Black Americans. And we got to talk about it. What it do, family and friends? Welcome back to the Church of Black Power. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button along with the notification bell so you can be notified whenever videos like this drop. Please make sure you're hitting that like and share button so we can beat up the algorithm. Make sure we get this message out to the ears that need to hear. And if you have not done so yet, please click the link in the description. Go to change.org and put your signature on the petition for reparations. And with that being said, family, this whole situation right here is very disheartening. I feel like somebody punched into my chest and just grabbed my heart. You dig what I'm saying? One of the reasons why I say that is because of the fact that I have major love and respect for Professor James Smalls. I have major respect for him to the point where I don't even want to disrespect him in any way by correcting this situation, because this situation is going to be corrected. I am going to speak the truth to power, and I'm not going to sit here and hold back on that. But what I will do is make sure that I'm not being disrespectful by no means. That's how much love I have for this man. Because, you know, in the past, I really appreciated the way he stood on business. However, this situation right here, it's shown me that not everybody is going to grow with us, and not everybody is going to go with us. But with that being said, family, let's get into it.
Habaragani Hotep Machio. I guess everybody knows my face. This is Professor James Small. And I'm just responding to some people who seem to get fun out of a video I did about 10 years ago. It's an hour long plus, but someone took 2 minutes of it where I'm being critical of my family, brothers and sisters, mainly brothers from the continent of Africa who was recent arrival in a conflict with the merchants from here and the continent on 125th Street. And so they decide they don't want to watch the entire tape where I'm critical of African American, critical of Africa from the Caribbean, critical of people of color who come to America and decide that their best ally are white people rather than African people. And that conflict had to do with trying to get brothers from the different spaces to go to a meeting at the National Black Theater to try to form a merchant group that could stand up against the police coming and taking the materials, the clothing and tapes of the young African-American brothers who didn't have a merchant license. Well, most people out there didn't have it, but the police tend to pick on the young teenagers who was out there trying to make a living. And I was trying to bring some peace by criticizing everybody. Now, my criticism might have been a little harsh, but I was criticizing myself as well. But I want to make it clear to people in the world, I'm an African. When I say identify myself racially, I'm an African. African American is an ethnic identity.
Let me stop there for a second, because I have to clarify something. Professor Smalls, African is not a race either. If African is a race, then you must include the Nabisco. You must include the Asian, you must include the Russian, well, that's Nabisco as well. You must include the Caribbeans. You must include everybody around the globe if you're saying African is a race, because everyone, according to the out of Africa theory, comes from an African. So when you say you're not African American, you're African. African is considered a continental or geographical identifier. It isn't a single unified racial group. Hell, they're not even unified over there in Africa. Many of the Africans over there don't identify as Africans unless they're outside of Africa. And even then, they may not identify as those Africans. They will identify as their ethnic group. They're Ghanaian, they're Yoruba, they're Igbo, they're Malian. But they don't just identify as an on-code unified racial group. That's not the case. Especially because Africa is incredibly diverse. So there are many distinct ethnic groups, languages, and cultures on the continent of Africa. Also, if you're saying that your race is African, then you would have to look at a person like Elon Musk and say the same thing about him, when we know his race is white. He's a Nabisco. You have to say the same thing about Mundani when he's Indian, who's a Nabisco or Asian, whatever. So African in itself isn't a race, Professor Smalls. And you're a professor, so I know you know that. Now, you can consider yourself whatever you want to consider yourself. But to say that our groups aren't ethnic, or our groups are ethnic groups and not a race, understandable. But neither is African. And we don't even go by African American. That's why we selected Foundational Black American. And we're supposed to have the power to do that. And I would think that you would understand the power of self-determination to be able to name ourselves and stand on that business. But let's continue.
That has to do with where I live. America is a geopolitical place. It's not a race. Africa is my race. Africa is my genesis. Africa is my culture. And I want to make it clear, I am not ADOS. Do not support them or their concept. I'm not FBA. Do not support them or their concept or their attack against African peoples.
Okay, Dr. Smalls, number one. Well, this is number two. Number two. FBAs aren't going around attacking African people. We are responding to the disrespect brought to us in our own home. Let's be very clear about this. If a man walks into your house and slap you in the face and you start whooping that man's ass, are you wrong for defending yourself? No. Especially because they did it inside of your own home. So they care so less about you that they're willing to disrespect you to your face in your own home. And we're supposed to just let that fly? I say no to that. I say no to that. Just like we wouldn't let nobody else come into our home and put their hands on us or disrespect us. Whether they be Asian, whether they be white, Nabisco, whether they be Mexican, whether they be any other nationality or ethnic group around the world. We would not allow that. So why would we allow people who look like us, who's supposed to be on code with us because we fought to bring them here into our house, to slap us in the face and disrespect us and not go hard at them? Pause. It makes no sense. And I don't even understand why you would think it would make sense. Years ago, you made a video explaining something very similar. Let's take a detour real quick and go here.
We allow people to have us deny our identity as African Americans, while other Africans come from other places and try to assume that identity for economic reasons and political reasons, and yet do not ally themselves with the African American in most instances. That those immigrant African community tend to ally themselves with the European American, not understanding what the historical relationship um, between the African American and the European American is, or the war, the cultural war and the spiritual war and the economic war and the political war that still exists between those two communities. So when you're an African from another place and you come and say, well, I can't get caught up in that, I'm here to make money, then you ally yourself with someone I'm at war with and wonder why I treat you a certain way. So you need to understand what you have just done. Besides disrespecting me in my country, something I would never do to you in your country. I would not go to Senegal and choose the side of the French against you. I would not come to Jamaica and choose the side of the Brits against you. So why would you come to America and choose the side of the white American for whatever reason, economic, political, cultural, or whatever, against me and my interests, and then tell me I'm unwelcoming to you? I welcome my friends and my brothers and sisters. I do not welcome my enemies, whether they look like me or not. Let's get that clear up front. And then let's look at some of the episodes in the epic history.
So, family, he already understood this some time ago. The only difference I would say since then, we've come to find out that it isn't the fact that they don't know about the history and the war that's going on. They know about this 100% fold. But they also want to protect their status as a buffer here in America. They also want to come here and push the ethnocide of our ethnic group by cosplaying us and trying to change the history of our people. So the whole situation about being disrespectful and attacking Africans, that's disingenuous. And you know it's disingenuous. You've spoken about this several times over. And it's highly disappointing as somebody who held you in high regard that you would even say such a thing. For many of us who look to you as an elder, for many of us who look to you as a truth teller, whether you was Pan-African or not, we never disrespected you as a Pan-African. Even though we stepped away from Pan-Africanism, We never disrespected any of the elders that we had high regards for, such as yourself, such as Dr. Kaba, such as just really any and everybody. Now we do clarify our position, but when it comes down to the elders of Pan-Africanism, we've never once disrespected any of you guys. Now the new Pan-African, yeah, they can get all the work because they know what they're doing and they know what they're pushing and they know exactly the manner in which they're doing so. Everything that comes around us nowadays is about doing for others and not looking out for our own people here. Erasing our identity so everyone else who comes here can now benefit from flat blackness. That's not going to happen. And the fact that you make it seem as if we're the antagonistic side, well, that kind of puts you in the same boat as these scam Africans who literally see these people come over here disrespecting us on TikTok 24 hours a day, holding spaces about us, calling us everything in the book except the children of the Most High. And they try to make it seem like we're the problem when we're responding to those folks who come into our house and slap us in the face. But let's continue.
Or the attack against Pan-Africanism, which shows a lot of ignorance and misunderstanding. I'm an African. And if someone wants to clip that little 2 minutes to try to create a critical negative, let those same person look at the other 100 plus videos that I have on the YouTube. And there's a couple of thousand more videos if you want to really go looking, and you will find they're 100% pro-African, pro-freedom, pro-identity, pro-Pan-Africanism.
Okay, I don't have a problem with you clarifying your stance. If someone clipped a video of yours and that's not where you fully stand, it was just a small segment out of a 1.5 hour video, whatever you said, and you want to clarify that, I have no problem with that. But to do so while being disingenuous towards us and being disrespectful towards us, yeah, that won't stand. Especially when we're the ones that hold you in high regard. We're the ones who put you on that pedestal because you're an elder that we have major love for. But this here, no, this is wrong all the way around. You could have just addressed the situation and said, hey, I'm not ADOS, I'm not FBA. Their position is their position. My position is my own. And we're going to leave it at that. But that's not what you did. You basically came in and act as if we're the ones who's starting all this mess, starting all this drama with all these other groups, more specifically the African. And that's not the case. And that's why I played the clip from Professor Smalls a few years prior, where he was explaining why certain people are treated certain ways once they come here. But let's continue.
So don't get me confused with yourself, because you're cowards and you're afraid to identify as Africans because you don't want the responsibility to fight for freedom.
Professor, that's not only disingenuous, but it's incorrect, upside down, and all out disrespectful. For decades, who have been the only people to put Pan-Africanism on their backs? It was us. We've took it upon ourselves to fight for every other black group all across the globe. Nobody has come to fight for us, at least not in large amounts. So to call us cowards when we're the only black group in the world that is consistently fighting the oppression and the system of white supremacy, that is disrespectful, that is disingenuous, and I would have never, ever thought I would have heard something like that come out of your mouth. It is heartbreaking and disappointing. It is. It's very heartbreaking. It's very disappointing. Because you can't name me another African group around the world that's come to our aid. You can't name me another African group around the world that stood on the soapbox for us. Not one. So when you're saying that we're cowards and we don't want to fight for freedom, our whole goddamn history is about fighting for freedom and fighting for others' freedom. It's like you're just erasing a large amount of who we are. That's a part of our culture. Fighting the oppressor, that's a part of us. We stand here 10 toes till this day, fighting the oppressor in the belly of the beast, and they run from their homelands to come over here because they know they have it easier here than they would at home, and that's because of the fight we did to bring them here. This is highly disappointing. But am I surprised? Absolutely not. Jason Black has said it many times. You got to watch these old niggas. And even though I respect you as an elder, what you just said was some old nigga babble. Pan-African babble. And it has to be addressed. It has to be called out.
I'm not a coward. I'm 80 years old, and I've spent 60 plus of those 80 years in a day-to-day constant freedom fight on the part of my people. So cowards, if you want to be critical of our race, if you want to be, and anyone have a right.
And as I stated, it's not our race. African is not a race. Because what is Elon Musk if African is a race? If African is a race, like I said, you must pull everyone, no matter what their skin tone or color is. And they are African by race. And that would include every single individual on this planet.
Right to criticize ourselves and our race. We have a right to do that and try to be appropriate. And so I say to brothers and sisters, if my tone was inappropriate, I apologize to myself and to you for that. But people are not going to use me to support their backwards, ignorance point of views as regard African peoples and Pan-Africanism. If you think that you're going to get me as an ally, you got the wrong black man. I am an African, born an African, will die an African. I am not FBA. I am not ADOS. And no matter how long you've been in the Americas or anywhere in the world, we came here from Africa. And anyone who wants to foolishly give up the identity of their grandmothers and grandfathers and their great-parents, I feel sad for you, because slavery and colonialism have impacted you in a greater way than we even think.
Professor, you can identify however you want to identify. I've already said that. But the fact that you're trying to put and impress that identity onto us because you want to identify that way, that's disrespectful. My grandmother never said she was an African. My grandfather never said he was an African. And if you're talking about the fact that everybody comes from Africa, then everybody's African. You can't pick and choose that. You only want to pick people who's in America. The black folk in America are the only folk that have to address the fact that we're African. You don't go to the Nabisco and force him to claim African. You don't go to the Asian and force them to claim African. You don't go to the Mexican and force them to claim African. You don't go to the Caribbean and force them to claim African, even though they have the closest tie to Africa out of everybody in the diaspora. Let's continue.
And yet all of us have been impacted by it. But we need to be clear. Don't try to misuse me, Professor James Small. I do not support your backwards, ignorance, foolish point of view about the family and the race.
Like I said, it is not a race. And two, they're not our family. Our family wouldn't come over to our house, kick in the door, slap us in the face, and put mud all over our couch like Rick James. That's not family. Family don't come over and try to unify with the oppressor, speaking all the talking points of the oppressor about us here in our country when we fought to bring them over here. Yeah, that's not family. That's a leech. And nobody, and I mean nobody, has the right to do that to us. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what your race is.
We are one African people. We will die as one African people.
And that's disingenuous because those folks over there don't look at themselves as one African people. It's crazy. The only people that look at African people as one African people are people who are born in America. And it's crazy that you say that, because I remember a time when you was talking about how you come from an indigenous background here in America. So that's crazy to me. Not saying that we didn't all come out of Africa. African life didn't start in Africa. I'm saying that for you to sit here and act as if our arguments isn't sound because of the history here. We know millions of indigenous people was taken into slavery before an African was ever brought over on a ship. Millions. And millions more was killed off. This is just highly, highly disappointing.
Or we will live eternally as one African people. And so I just want to make this clear, because I'm sick of watching it regurgitate. And many of them don't understand they have become willing collaborators with the CIA.
So you're going, oh, now you're doing the same thing that the scam Africans are doing, trying to say that we're the CIA, trying to say that we're a hate group, trying to say that we're all these things except for exactly what we've already said we are, which is nothing but a lineage. You're going to have some people who are a part of the lineage who still practice Pan-Africanism, and you have other people who's a part of the lineage that does not. But the fact to sit here and say we have allied ourselves with the CIA, when the fact of the matter is, those folks are running around here talking the CIA talking points. Those folks are running around here basically spewing everything that comes out of the Nabisco's mouth towards us. But yet we're supposed to just sit back and take it and be loving and open arm to everybody that look like us. No, hell no. In the words of Randy Jackson, it's a no from me, dog.
They've become willing collaborators with the American State Department. They've become willing collaborators with the Zionists that want to disunite African people and want to cause confusion in our ranks. But we are one people. We are one African. Pan-Africanism, which means the unification of people around things African, is my mantra and my philosophy.
And that's perfectly fine. If that's your mantra, that's your mantra. But you can't sit here and deny our actual reality. You might not see it. You might not see it. But you're denying our reality by sitting here calling us cowards, saying we don't want to fight against the oppressor, when the fact of the matter is you have these freaking tethers creating walls in order to make sure we can't get to the oppressor, being willing participants within the system of white supremacy, coming over here mocking our goddamn experience here, the same experience that we fought through to bring them here. If that's your mantra, that's fine. It's not theirs and it's not ours. And we don't have to adopt it as ours, because they don't come here and adopt that as theirs. No matter how much we want to work with them, no matter how well we want them to do, we're the only people that help other groups of the African diaspora without wanting anything in return. We do not exploit them. We do not treat them like they're beneath us because we want something from them. No, we want to help them learn the system of white supremacy so they won't be taken advantage of, so they won't see themselves on the wrong end of supremacy. But we can't do that because the mindset that they have is not the mindset that we have. We don't have to fight anybody for them to take on our ideals, for them to understand how America works and how the system here in America works. They've been colonized. We're the group that's never been colonized. We've been taken as prisoners of war. We've been enslaved. But we fought our way out of it tooth and nail. We didn't allow them to colonize our minds like these Africans who we call tethers. Now, not every African has a colonized mind. However, many of them do. And that's why there's so many issues over on the continent. This is why they can't get it together with each other to see themselves as one African.
I am not socialist. I am not a Marxist. I have never been those other people's things. I was born and raised in the Christian church, and then I dumped that at 17. I got involved in the Muslim movement, became the heir to Malcolm X, was the imam of his Muslim Mosque, Inc., went to Mecca, became a Hajj, and then I realized this is not an African thing, and I cut it loose. And I've studied the history of Islam in West Africa. I'm very clear. We have our own sacred science traditions. We need to bring them back. We need to not apologize to anybody for being Africans. And if they want to stay in America and own America as their identity, I feel sorry for them. You're still my brothers and sisters. I understand that you have an issue and a problem, but stop attacking our race. Stop attacking our ancestors. Stop attacking the brothers and sisters that are recent to this country who are just trying to survive.
We're not attacking anybody. We're gatekeeping. The fact that we stepped away from defending everybody and fighting everybody's fight is considered attacking. That should be looked at and studied. And yes, this is our land in the very same way that the Africans have their continent, and that's their land. I wouldn't want to force them to be American no more than they should want to force me to be African. They should be proud to be African. They should be proud of their history, their lineage, their culture, their customs. They should be proud of that. And I should be able to be proud of my history, my lineage, my heritage, my culture, my customs, my land. The fact that we fought in every damn war here. The fact that we fought to bring people who look like us from all over the globe here. But that last part, I can't be proud of. And most of us are now feeling the same way because of the fact that these folks will come here and show us their ass. And you say they're coming here trying to seek a better life. We made that possible. Only for them to get over here and disrespect us, disrespect our ancestors, disrespect our lineage, disrespect our heritage, disrespect our cultures, call our babies bullet bags. When I say this is highly disappointing, Dr. Smalls, Professor Smalls, it is very disappointing and highly disingenuous. And I say that with all due respect.
That argument we had on 125th Street, I was overcritical. But if you watch the whole tape, I kicked African Americans in their butts too, trying to get some unity out there so they could form, and they did for a while, form a merchant coalition where they could hold their own against the police and the others on 125th Street. So if you're not out in the street with the people, you won't even have a clue what I'm talking about. But no, don't confuse me. I'm an African. I'm not caught up in your confusion about we were in America first. We were everywhere on the planet first.
So you know what you just did? You contradicted yourself. You said that you're not caught up in our confusion talking about we were in America first, and then you turn around right around in the same breath to say we were everywhere on the planet first. So you just proved our point. Yes, we were in America first, regardless of whether everybody came out of Africa or not, which makes us indigenous to America. In the very same way that the Asian was not in Asia first, the African was in Asia first, according to the outer African theory. But those African Asians are still Asian. They're not called African Asian. They're called the indigenous Asian people. In the very same way, when you go down to Australia, you get the indigenous Australian, even though they know they come from Africa. Fiji, you get indigenous Fijian, excuse me, even though they know that they come from Africa. So why in the hell do we have to be held to a different standard than everybody else around the globe? All to make a bunch of people who really disrespect us on the average feel better about themselves. Because that's what it really boils down to. This is highly disrespectful and highly disappointing.
Before anybody, we were in China before the Asiatic type came into being. We were in Russia before the Mongolian type came into being. We were in Germany before the Visigoths and the Ostrogoths came out of the caves and the mountains. We were in Australia. We were in Cambodia. We were in Hawaii. We were in Central South America before any other people that can call themselves a race.
Well, if African is a race, then any other people are African too. And just like you said, we were everywhere. Hawaii, shout out to King Kamehameha. Fiji, Brazil, Central America, Australia. Hell, some might even say we were in Alaska. And nobody has the same parameters that we have of calling ourselves or having to be forced to call ourselves African. You just call them Chinese. You call them Australian. You call them Fijian. You call them Brazilian. You call them Jamaican. You call them Dominican. You call them Haitian.
So why are you so hung up on the fact that some of us may have stumbled up on North America before Columbus got here? Columbus just got here the other day. He's not significant or important to nothing. I do not measure or identify myself by any of the European genociders who people call colonizers. Because
we're not hung up off the fact that we were here before Columbus. We're hung up off the fact that we are indigenous to these Americas. Whether We came from indigenous tribes, whether Africans was brought here and went through their ethnogenesis, whether or not, it means nothing. We were here before America was founded, which makes us indigenous to America. Because it was our blood, sweat, and tears that built this country from the ground up that every goddamn immigrant want to come to. It was our labor that made this country the most wealthiest place on the planet. It was our labor that gave opportunity to every immigrant that came here as an immigrant, because you don't immigrate to a location where you don't have opportunity. You immigrate there to gain opportunity. And you know, Tariq, I know y'all have had these conversations. You've been in several of his movies. That's why I know this is disingenuous. You've spoken about your indigenous bloodline here in America. I don't know who got to you, whether they were putting stuff in your ear, negative Nancy's, whatever the situation may have you, I don't know. But dear Most High, I pray that you shake this out and shake it off. Because now you're going to isolate a whole new generation from you and your teachings. Let's continue.
This has been a war of genocide against us. We see that war still being extended today in Sudan. If you want to do something, let's see what we can do about ending the genocide in Sudan, or having the people who are causing it pay a price they don't want to pay.
Why is it upon us? Why is it upon us to be the savior, the Superman for every other black group, but no other black group wants to come and play that same savior role for us? There's never been another group of people come here and stand on business with us against the oppressor. Not one. You're talking about we need to be figuring out how to help the Sudan. But when these people from Sudan come over here, they come through acting like Amru Fodal. You get Myron Gaines. You get people who say we have no culture, even though our culture is exported globally. Exported. You get your Cynthia Erivos. You get your Kai Cenats. But it's upon us. It's been placed upon our shoulders to be the Superman for every other black group outside of America when nobody comes to our aid. They mock us. They disrespect us. And then they team up with the Nabisco just to get a pat on their damn heads.
But that's my message. Let me be very clear. Don't confuse who I am. I'm not an ADOS. I'm not an FBA. I'm not someone who's confused with my identity. I am an African. And if you don't like that word, throw it out. I'm the original man. I'm the God man, which emanated out of the soil of Africa when it was first manifested by the cosmos itself. I'm a replica of the universe like you are. So you need to get your memory back. And the most authentic replica of the universe is in trouble in Sudan right now. The blackest of the black, the most melanated of the melanated, is in trouble. So let's fight for that. People who are caught up in this thing, they want reparations, and they don't want our brothers and sisters from this place to get any of the reparations of that place. The crime was committed not to the group of Africans brought to North America. That genocide was not committed just to those of us brought to the Caribbean. The genocide was committed to the entire African race.
So those Africans who was wronged need to go to the people that wronged them. We built America. America wronged us, stole from us, used our babies as alligator bait, put us in consistent situations to where we could not economically grow. They had bombed our towns every chance they got. No, they're not open. Excuse me. They're not entitled to the reparations claim here in the very same way that we are not entitled to the reparations claim over in Africa. The very same way we are not entitled to the reparations claim over in the Caribbeans, in CARICOM. Nobody else includes us. They only want to try to include us now, quote unquote, the African Union, in order to funnel our $1.3 trillion in spending power over to them. They want us to build up their nations like another slave. I'm not going to fight for that. And I'm not going to fight for people who gets entitled and come over here and then fight against us in our justice claim. That makes absolutely no damn sense. And I say that respectfully.
We were ripped from mothers, fathers, uncles, brothers, and sisters, and that pain and that cutting and that breaking and that destruction on them. If you want reparations, and go beg your white man boss for something, I think they should pay for any and everything they did to me and to my race.
And that's disrespectful. Because we're not out here begging anybody for anything. We're demanding it. And we're utilizing our political power in order to get it. We're utilizing our economic power in order to get it. We're utilizing our status as FBAs in order to get it. Foundational Black American Freedmen, or Solon, whichever one you prefer, or Indigenous American, whatever you prefer. I don't care. I've said this several times over. As long as you're tied here, a non-immigrant, we're doing what we need to do. And none of you ever go and speak to the Africans in this manner. Well, I will pull this back. You did have several videos where you was checking some Africans, but you was checking everybody in your own words, you said. However, when we talk about Pan-Africanism as a whole, don't check the African for their wrongdoings. Don't check the people who come to America and disrespect us because they don't like the fact that we're American at all. When they have no problem putting on their goddamn identifier, Nigerian, Ghanaian, Sudanese, South African. They come over here waving their flags and repping their stuff proudly. We don't have any Pan-Africans going after them and letting these folks know, hey, this is off code as hell. when they're over here disrespecting us and waving their flags in our faces? No. So we'll be damned if we allow anybody to force us to have the empathy or sympathy for a bunch of people that has none for us.
But I don't put myself above my race. No group is above the race. Race is second only to the divine of the universe itself.
African is not a race. Race, although being a social construct, there's only what, 3 races? Or really 2 if you really want to get down to the brass tacks, because even the Nabisco is considered an Asian. That's why they call him Caucasian. Caucasian. So there's Asian and there's black. Because if it's African, then the Asians will fall into it as well. The Nabiscos will fall into it as well. The Mexicans will fall into it as well. And that eliminates everybody's ethnicity.
Nothing else is above the race. Even family comes after the race. So let's be clear. I'm an African. You are not going to confuse that. You're not going to confuse that. And if you think anyone else could confuse that, go listen to the thousands and thousands of lectures I put all over social media and other parts of the world for decades. So I just wanted to get that out and make it clear. Stop playing. If you're a coward and you don't want to fight for freedom, so you don't want to identify as an African, then go to the coward's place. We'll come back and get you later. But right now, we have to fight for our freedom. True freedom is to restore your identity. If you talk about freedom and you don't know what your identity is, you are not free. I don't care how much money or degrees or whatever you've got. I'm a free African being living in the universe. Don't confuse it. Peace and blessings. Hotep. I'm done with that.
Professor, we are not confused. We are not confused one bit. However, I'm glad that you made it clear where you stand, what your position is, and with all due respect, if you think that we're cowards, move to Africa and go help them fight for their freedom. If you believe that foundational Black Americans are the cowards, go live amongst the people in which you want to help gain freedom. And let's see if they're going to fight with you or fight against you. And there's Africans who want to unalive him. There are African nations that want to go against him. If you believe we're the cowards, then you've gotten too old to understand the dynamic of your surroundings. And that's okay, because I'm glad to know where you stand. As I said on my X post when I saw this video, disappointing, but not surprising. Family, I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section. And I want y'all to be respectful. This isn't me wanting anybody to disrespect Professor Smalls. However, you can absolutely be truthful. Let me know how you feel about this situation, because you already heard how I feel about it. With that being said, family, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button along with the notification bell so you can be notified whenever videos like this drop. Please make sure you're hitting that like and share button so we can beat up the algorithm. Make sure we get this message out to the ears that need to hear. And if you have not done so yet, please click that link in the description. Go to change.org and put your signature on the petition for reparations. And with that being said, family, in closing, I'm going to play this clip one more time.
Allow people to have us deny our identity as African Americans, while other Africans come from other places and try to assume that identity for economic reasons and political reasons, and yet do not ally themselves with the African American in most instances. That those immigrant African community tend to ally themselves with the European American, not understanding what the historical relationship between the African American and the European American is, or the war, the cultural war and the spiritual war and the economic war and the political war that still exists between those two communities. So when you're an African from another place and you come and say, well, I can't get caught up in that, I'm here to make money, then you ally yourself with someone I'm at war with and wonder why I treat you a certain way. So you need to understand what you have just done. Besides disrespecting me in my country, something I would never do to you in your country. I would not go to Senegal and choose the side of the French against you. I would not come to Jamaica and choose the side of the Brits against you. So why would you come to America and choose the side of the white American for whatever reason, economic, political, cultural, or whatever, against me and my interests, and then tell me I'm unwelcoming to you? I welcome my friends and my brothers and sisters. I do not welcome my enemies, whether they look like me or not. Let's get that clear up front. And then let's look at some of the episodes in the epic history.
The doors of the church are now closed. Peace, family.
My grandfather built this country, man. He fought wars for it. And most places he went wouldn't let him sit down and get a cup of coffee. I can't even catch a cab in New York. You know, it doesn't matter how many degrees I get. All you people see is color. Your grandfather was an immigrant. You're American. My grandfather was born here, Duke. And you people still look at me as just another nigga.
I know that the government, whatever, can't stand us black people. He's doing everything in the world to make black man be extinct. But I'm going to tell you one thing. Us black people going to survive. Yeah. So fuck everybody. I'm out.